The interpretation of narratives is to some extent subjective because everyone can experience art differently. At the same time, using literary analysis, we can still explain the most reasonable meanings that the artist meant to convey or that the audience is likely to understand. To understand themes of any work of art, however, spoilers are involved. Heavy spoilers. So consider this your spoiler warning. SANABI, the 2D platformer developed by indie studio Wonder Potion, is a fast-paced game that gives the player an energetic, adrenaline-pumping experience in gameplay. At the same time, the game slows down to give the player a meaningful, poignant story about what is important in life. The game begins with a cryptic statement, "Getting all the way to the end isn't what's important." Then what is? The game doesn't really answer this question with a clear statement, but with the narrative in the rest of the game. What then, according to the narrative themes of SANABI, is important? In this video, we're going to answer the question, what can SANABI tell us about what's important in life? The first thing that the game seems to be telling us is that getting all the way to the end isn't what's important, but seeing the truth of what is going on. The general cannot see that he is only a digitized copy of the original biological general. He cannot see the falseness of his memories regarding the bombing of his daughter and his false revenge mission due to the cognitive restraints and programming the Mago group has put on his digitized personality. The general cannot see the people of Mago cowering at the likely destruction of the city due to the filters on his vision, and he cannot see that Mari is his daughter who his false memories tell him has died. Yet initially, he does not seem to care and is not concerned about those things. He only focuses on his programmed purpose, exacting revenge on SANABI. The story, however, shows us that what's important is not getting to SANABI, but seeing the lies and contradictions of his memories. The idea of the truth being more important than SANABI culminates in the choice of going down or up at the basement of the HQ. Going down symbolizes getting to the end, the goal of SANABI and exacting revenge, while going up symbolizes the importance of seeing the true nature of what is going on. The general slowly figures these things out, first realizing that Mari knows him better than he is letting on. He also slowly figures out that he is a worker robot and connected with Mago somehow. He removes the filters so he can see people, and he removes the cognitive restraints so he can restore his original memories. Eventually, he comes to understand the truth, that he is a digital, robotic copy of himself, programmed for revenge, but still remembering his daughter underneath all the false memories. However, just as the PC sees the truth more and more clearly, Mari's own vision becomes more and more blurry, as she can no longer see the PC's progress and gives up on him ever remembering her. Mari gives up on reuniting with the personality of her father and instead focuses on accomplishing her goal of SANABI, stopping the nuclear power plant from melting down. When the general tries to reach out to her, she rejects him and declares that he is only a robot. Getting to the end, the goal of Mago's revenge SANABI and Mari's nuclear power plant SANABI isn't what's important, but seeing the truth. Similarly, the Bible discusses the importance of seeing the truth of spiritual reality. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing, because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore God sends them a strong delusion, so that they may believe what is false, in order that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. But we ought always to give thanks to God for you, brothers beloved by the Lord, because God chose you as the firstfruits to be saved, through sanctification by the Spirit and belief in the truth. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 9 to 13. Here, the Apostle Paul tells us that God allows Satan and evil spirits to deceive the world through strong delusions. Paul tells us that what's important is to see and understand the truth instead of having pleasure in unrighteousness. For the general, it is important to see past the revenge in Mago's programming and the lies of Mari to the true nature of SANABI, a father's promise to a daughter. This leads us to the second theme of the game, keeping promises. Getting all the way to the end isn't what's important, but keeping promises. In the game, the theme of keeping promises is developed early on. The general promises to help Mari get to the top, which he does succeed in doing. In the process of making that promise, he also remembers his past promise of always protecting his daughter, which his false memories tell him he failed at, but he actually succeeded at doing at the cost of his life. Mari, too, also promises to protect the general and fulfills this promise in an encounter with the overseer. As the game progresses, the general remembers the truth of SANABI, an earlier promise to play the harmonica for his daughter. His desire to keep his promise is so strong that it forms a block against Mego's programming and their goal of turning him into a revenge machine, with the general always giving up on finishing his revenge in order to be there for his daughter. Instead of getting to the end, he always chooses to fulfill his promise. This forces the Mego group to reprogram him and alter his memories of his promise of SANABI to turning SANABI into the target of revenge. When the general regains his memories and realizes that the SANABI he was pursuing is fake, he still decides to return to Mego City in order to stop the power plant from exploding and to fulfill his promise to his daughter. The game also reveals that his daughter had a dream of an adventure with her father, fighting a giant worm, meeting justice, running from a monster that is too great, and riding a flying train, all of which happen as a sort of final fulfillment of her dream, or a promise in this final adventure. The general goes through Mego City all over again just so he can fulfill this promise, risking his life. This culminates in the climax of the game when the PC returns to Mari and plays the harmonica for her, showing her that he remembers both her and his promise and fulfills that promise. The Bible too discusses the importance of keeping promises. God is a covenant-keeping God, but even for people, it is important to keep promises, even at personal cost. O Lord, who shall sojourn in your tent? Who shall dwell on your holy hill? He who walks blamelessly and does what is right, and speaks truth in his heart, in whose eyes a vile person is despised, but who honors those who fear the Lord, who swears to his own hurt and does not change. He who does these things shall never be moved. Psalm chapter 15, verses 1 and 2 and 4 and 5. The general does indeed pay a high price for keeping his promise of SANABI, playing the harmonica for his daughter. But why is playing the harmonica so important? It's not actually the action of playing harmonica that is important, but what playing harmonica symbolizes. Being there for someone in their sadness and their mourning. This leads to a third theme in the game. Getting all the way to the end isn't what's important, but being there for someone in mourning. In the game, removing or avoiding sadness is heavily contrasted with comforting others in their mourning. In her childhood, Mari sees her father's sadness and brokenness about the death of her mother and feels sorry for him. She attempts to help him by creating a digital personality of him where his memory of her mother is removed. Rather than resolving his depression, however, this is what leads the Mego group to attack their family, steal the personality data, and cause further trauma. But in his final memories, we see that the general never really considered his own brokenness to be a serious issue, but he is instead comforted by his daughter's own promise to be there and comfort him, to play SANABI for him when he misses his wife. His daughter then asks him to play SANABI for her if she ever becomes sad, which he promises to do. When the PC finishes playing the harmonica, he is there for her and comforts her. He comforts her regarding all her guilt for causing his death, as well as her grief and her depression in a life without both her mother and her father. The general simply listens and comforts her, which is enough to heal her. The Bible too talks about the importance of being there and comforting those who are struggling with sadness and depression. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3. Paul declares that God is a good God who comforts us, so that we may also comfort others. In the game, Mari is comforted by the general's fulfillment of his promise, as well as his kind, forgiving words. However, when she asks him to run away with her to avoid the additional pain, he rejects her request. Instead, he comforts her in advance, preparing her for a final goodbye. He does this by reminding Mari of something her mother said to comfort Mari when her cat Muffin died, which is actually the final theme. the inevitability of death. Getting all the way to the end isn't what's important. It's finally revealed that the key memory relating to the promise in this phrase is understanding that getting all the way to the end isn't what's important, but how the song is played. In this last theme, the meaning of the key phrase is changed slightly. Getting to the end no longer means our own selfish goals, but death, or to be more precise, avoiding death. Getting all the way to the end isn't what's important, because everyone gets to the end of the song. Everyone gets the end of their lives. Instead, what is important is how the song is played, or how we live. The general reminds Mari that with every hello comes a goodbye, a reminder that in the end, everyone dies. Therefore, what's important is not avoiding getting to the end, but how we get there, or how we live our lives before we die. This is highlighted in all the small things that the general does to help others. Before, when he thought Mari was a criminal hacker paying for her crimes through serving Korea, the general goes out of his way to give her an opportunity to expunge her criminal record. Throughout the initial mission, even though Mari was helpful to his cause, he continues to try to persuade her not to throw away her life in the suicide mission of stopping SANABI, even though that would weaken his chances of success. Once the general discovers his own identity, he decides to go back into Mago City to fulfill his promise and to save the people of Mago City. When Colonel Baek and Major Song offer to take him, he rejects this offer for fear of causing them to engage in treason, even though this would help him dramatically. Finally, even with an opportunity to live out more time with his daughter Mari, the general chooses to sacrifice his second chance at life, even if it's a robotic life, to stop the nuclear explosion and save the 3 million people of Mago City. In the Bible, the author of Ecclesiastes tells us this: before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel is broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 6 and 7, and 13 and 14. Life should be lived in the view of inevitable death, so everyone should live their lives fearing God and keeping his commandments, because all good and evil will be judged by God. According to SANABI, avoiding getting to the end of your life is not what's important, but how we live life. SANABI is a truly unique work of art that earns its emotional moments. The key phrase, getting all the way to the end isn't what's important, is incorporated into so many aspects of the game's story. What's important isn't getting to the end, but seeing the truth, keeping promises, comforting our loved ones, and how we live our lives. I really enjoyed the narrative themes of SANABI, and I hope that you have too. That's all I have for you in this video. Bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this video blessed you in some way, please consider watching some of my other videos, subscribing, or sharing with me some of your thoughts in the comments below.